Good morning, welcome to Kunu'sKorner. Today we're going to be starting the Easy FPS Editor tutorial series. In this episode we're just going to be jumping into the editor and exploring some of the features. We'll start with the basics like starting your project and starting a map. So I'll leave a link below to the links so you can download Easy FPS Editor if you don't have it already. But I'm going to assume you already have that, so we'll go ahead and get started. So open Easy FPS Editor and start by going to the top left and create new project. So we're just going to call it new project. Okay, it's done. So you're going to notice it's pretty much a blank slate. We need to make a map. So over here you have a bunch of different sections: tiles, objects, entities, maps, custom modifiers, default modifiers. We're going to start by making a map. So over here you have two buttons: open map, create new map. Let's create new map. I'm just going to call this dev map. Alright, that's looking a little better. So now we actually have some tiles to work with. So if we went over to tiles, you'll see walls and floor. Right now we don't have anything, so we should import some resources. So go over to import resources and you'll see we have import textures, import player resources, import object resources, and import system resources. Right now we're just going to start with importing some textures. So here we have the texture importer. You'll see it's divided into two sections: walls and floors. So let's get started by importing some walls. I'm just going to use some of the assets from the game that I've been working on called Call the Exterminator, which you can check out the dev progress on my YouTube channel. So I'll just grab a random one. Let's do blue stripe. Then we need a floor. We'll grab some concrete tile. Alright, so making a map is as easy as just grabbing a floor or a wall tile and drawing a map. Now how we're looking at the editor is from the top down view, so this will kind of make sense in a second. Right now I'm just drawing the floor out, then I'll surround it with some walls. Now currently there isn't a ceiling, so what we can do is go up a level. Up here at the top you'll see map, floor. We have 64 floors available. So your total map, if we were to zoom out here, can be 64 by 64 and then 64 high. So you can get a pretty good map going. Pretty big. So anyway, we'll go to the second floor. I'm just putting the floor down as the ceiling. Floor textures are really strange because in EFPS, as far as I'm aware, the floor textures are only good on the ground level, meaning floor 1. So if we were to be on floor 2, I can actually give you an example by putting the player here. It's invisible. You can't see it. Something's weird with floor textures. They only work on the floor, meaning floor 1. Right? But, let me remove that player. If we're on ground floor, it works as a ceiling. Right, so that's cool. A way around this though is just going over to import resources and import your floor textures as your wall textures, and then you can use walls as floors, and that way, you know, if we were on that upper level, it wouldn't be invisible. Great, so we've made this room. Got a floor, got a ceiling, got some walls. That's great. Now we can kind of explore some more of the editor. If you look over here where I was at, we have the player. We have some keys as well. Of course, these can be your own graphics, but the purpose of this would be like if you want to make a game like a classic Doom game where there's multiple different pathways around the map and each one is locked behind a certain key, and it requires some backtracking to get to these other areas. You can do that with these keys, and they will correspond to locked doors. If you come over to default modifiers, you can see a locked red door, green, and blue. Coming back over here to objects, we have a couple things available other than the keys. We got some lights, a small, medium, and large, and then a user light. So this can be any color we want it to be, right? We have health and armor, and again, these can be your own graphics. And then triggers. You can have up to 10 triggers, 10 different triggers on a map, and you can use these triggers any amount of times you want. See, I just kind of laid that out. And what a trigger is basically you can attach, if you come over to the right side to trigger settings, with triggers you can attach a sound or a script file. So we're not going to get into triggers in this episode, but it's good to be aware of them, right? Then we have some default modifiers, like a door. We have some steps, and I'll show you how these modifiers work in a moment. We have angled walls, thin walls, and terminals. Terminals work similarly to triggers as far as I'm aware. You attach a script to them, and then it becomes something that you interact with, that a script is attached to. We have invisible blocks, hazard blocks, and enemy barrier blocks. So an enemy won't be able to pass through that barrier. If we were to make an invisible wall, they wouldn't be able to walk through. Same with this invisible block. I'll show you right now. So I put a hazard block right in front of an invisible block. Alright, we're all fine and well here, but if I step forward, oop, I'm getting hurt, and I actually can't pass any further than that because of the invisible block. So that's great, and the enemy barrier block is just the same thing. Though as far as I'm aware, the enemies are also blocked by the invisible block, but the enemy barrier block, let's see here, I believe we can pass right through this. Yep. So that's good to know. You could probably do some interesting map making things there, or if you have a lot of different maybe corridors and pathways on a map and the AI is kind of acting bizarre, maybe you can implement these enemy barrier blocks to kind of direct them towards the general path. Then we have some angled walls. So with these kind of modifiers, ones that relate to like geometry, like level geometry and stuff, you need to put a tile on top of them to give them a texture. So let's see, if we were to put angled walls, we got to go back. If I show you here, well, since I put it on top of the floor, it grabbed the floor. But if we don't want that, we just throw the wall right on top of it, right? You throw whatever texture you want to to go there right on top of it. Boom. Cornered walls just like that. Okay, so that's pretty simple. Then if you come over to Custom Modifiers, this is where it also gets interesting, and it's same concept. You lay these down, and you do have to throw a texture on them. So here we got some cylinders. The cool thing about these modifiers, we go to Custom Modifiers, and then if you go to the top here under Advanced Tools, Custom Modifier Configurator, you'll see we have our big column here, our small column. If you click down here, the little green plus, now we have an unnamed tile. You can click Add to add a shape. You can actually make your own shapes and like level geometry here. So you can make objects, you can make tables, chairs. You could really get creative with it. I've seen a couple fellows like Beadly do some interesting things with custom modifiers like doorways and attach them to scripts and do all kinds of things. So very cool. However, it's good to know that with these modifiers, just like you saw me using the angled walls, you actually will need to make a new one for every angle, north, south, east, and west. And that, you know, does get time consuming. However, with the most recent dev build, I do believe you can rotate the whole thing. So let's see here. I'll try to do an example. I just need to make a shape that be clear if I rotated it. Okay, I think this whole rotation thing is new. Okay. So yeah, that's very helpful. That'll save you a lot of time. So a couple updates ago, you actually had to remake every single object again in every direction, but now it looks like you may be able to just place those objects down and then rotate like that. I'm not sure if you can actually copy these as well, but if you can and somebody knows, let me know. So anyway, that's just a little example of some custom modifiers. We're not going to really go into that right now. I just kind of want to go over a lot of the basics here. Alright, so that's cool. We added some walls, some floors. There's a couple more things we can explore if we want to mess with the ambience a little bit. Let's say we want to make a dark, kind of scary horror map. Over here on the right, we haven't really gone into this yet, but there's map properties. You can add music, you can add a cutscene, you can obviously add a skybox, and there's a couple different ways to do that as well. Flat, cylinder, and cube. And ambient color. Now this ambient color is kind of like a color filter applied over the whole game. So you guys saw how it looked before. This is default. But let's say we kind of wanted to have like a dark, scary horror game. You could drop the color, make it pretty dark, right? And then maybe we'll add a light back here and just see what it looks like. Ooh. See, I mean, it's not totally pitch black, but that's already a more spooky vibe right there. You could even make it a little darker and turn that fog distance way short. Let's maybe go with like 450. Ooh, Yeah, see, now you got a spooky vibe going. So that's just a couple ways you can mess with the ambience of your game, just using the ambient color and the fog. Alright, so moving on, we have player resources. So these are kind of obvious. You got your hurt sound, death sound, jump sound, land sound, that's when you hit the floor, step sound, melee hit sound, and you have your shadow image. Object resources. This is going to be your health and armor that I talked about earlier. And your system resources. So this is like menu UI stuff. Got the loading image, input prompt, game menu, save menu, got the menu music, default blood particles, all that stuff. Numbers, the pick crosshair. Come over to health settings, you can change the amount that each pickup gives you. Weapon settings. So this is where we're going to add weapons. I think we covered a good amount this episode, adding floor textures, wall textures, getting a little bit familiar with the editor. In the next episode, we're going to go over adding weapons and enemies, and further familiarizing ourselves with the editor. So thanks guys for watching. If you found this helpful, please subscribe and stay tuned for the next tutorials. I'm going to try to keep updated on these easy FPS editor tutorials. I've been really busy with my game Call the Exterminator that I've been working on in easy FPS editor. So if you want to check my progress, check out my YouTube channel. I have a bunch of little clips that I've just been posting as I make progress. So thanks guys for watching. Stay tuned to the next episode, and I'll see you there.